There is something that is not talked about enough that is leaving a lot of people sitting in shame, feeling like they're so far behind, like they're never going to catch up, and like they're so far away from having the life they want. And that's not knowing exactly what they want to do. You might know what you no longer want to do and what you no longer want to be available for, but you aren't exactly sure what it is that's going to be your thing or it's going to be your next step. And we're going to fix that today. My friend and my guest today, Cayla Craft, who's a fellow podcaster, and she is now a newly published author. I'm so excited for her with her new book, What Do You Really Want? It's on pre-sale right now. So you can get her book right inside the show notes or inside the description here on YouTube. We did something kind of interesting for this episode. She wanted to interview me in her studio. And I said, you know what? While I'm there, why don't I also interview you in this studio? So you're going to get ProjectME with Tiffany Carter in a studio experience. And I would love to know your feedback on that. If you like that, if that seemed visually stimulating for you, if you like that vibe and energy, because this is going to help us take the show to another level. But we're going to have a really interesting and raw conversation about not just determining what it is you want, but how to actually get it. Because most people leave that part out. And we're two women from two different backgrounds, both highly dysfunctional backgrounds, who have figured it out and have gotten it and have done it over and over again and help other people do the same. So listen in for this incredible wisdom and this conversation between friends who've known each other for 5 years in this crazy online space. I know you will really, really resonate with this episode. If you're tired of hearing the same old basic mindset and motivational fluff talk, you've come to the right show. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast, where we dish on everything from managing that crazy brain of yours to manifesting abundance to my straightforward, actionable steps that will make you major money online. Now, I'm not your typical multimillionaire entrepreneur. It takes a small village to keep my anxiety and depression in check. I'm inherently disorganized with an intense obsession with office supplies. Your girl here is a digital marketing content expert who's generated over $200 million in sales. I promise by tuning in twice a week, you will get a much needed refreshing dose of truth, clarity, and cash making advice. Now let's get to it. Remember, and it's ending soon, you can get my $477 content creation made easy, quick start social media strategy guide and printable content planner. And this is specially designed for my multi-passionate business owners. I'm showing it right now, getting a little preview over on YouTube. So you are getting this for free in exchange for you writing an Apple Podcast review of the show. So you need to subscribe and follow the show, leave a written 5-star Apple Podcast review, put your name or Instagram, TikTok handle in the review, take a screenshot, and email it to us at support@projectmewithtiffany.com. This way we can cross-reference. The simple instructions are right inside the show notes, so you can simply swipe up and you're going to see them right there. I've opened up this giveaway to people who are also listening on different platforms outside of Apple. So Spotify, you're listening on YouTube, you're listening on Google. And right now, Apple is the only platform where you can leave a written review. So that is my preference. But if you don't have an Apple account, then at least leave a 5-star review. You need to post the show. You can do a video on TikTok. You can post it in your Instagram, Facebook stories. You can post it in your feed. And you need to tag me and send a screenshot of that and email that to us. So you are showcasing and shouting out the review of the show. And then once you email us, we will reply so you can have instant access and get your content popping and profiting. And you're going to be blown away. There is no angle here other than spreading the word about the podcast and something I would like to think you would want to do anyway. And one more thing, there is a special flash sale going on for my Make More Work Less money course, and it's over 50% sold out now. It's the first 50 people get $200 off this course, and it's over 50% of those spots were taken. That link is also in the show notes, projectmewithtiffany.com/make more work less. If you want to transform your relationship with money in 7 days or less, so you can stop working against yourself and you can unclog your abundance pipes and have money flowing in and opportunities flowing in, and finally figure out what in the hell has been blocking you all these years, this is it. There's hundreds and hundreds of testimonials on my Instagram highlights under course, and I post them all the time regularly. So you don't have to take my word for it. You can listen to the hundreds of people who've had incredible results and continue to see amazing things of abundance happen in their life as a result of taking this landmark program of mine. So I'm excited for you to listen to this episode. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? It's your host, Tiffany Carter, and this is the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your abundance, your relationships, and everything in between. Get ready for this cool format, and you can go watch this if you're not already on ProjectME TV on YouTube, where we're doing a special in-studio interview for this episode. I think it's hysterical how much time has gone by. And it's really bizarre to me because I don't feel like it's been 5 years.
I know. It's insane because I feel like it's several lifetimes have happened since I haven't even seen you in person since Mommy Millionaire Live in 2019.
Wow. And I don't feel it like it's been that long, but I also think that's like the power of having a personal brand.
Yeah.
Is because I listen to your show, I watch your content. I feel like
here we are,
right? Like I already feel like we've been in contact, but we haven't.
I know. Which
is so interesting. It blows my mind. And I wanted to talk about like how we know time goes by so fast, and as a mom, you see that right in front of your face with your kids. It's like, how did this happen? Like, I see it when I watch stuff of your kids. I'm like, how would this happen? Like, what's going on
When
here?
did he become 13?
Exactly. Like
what
is happening? And how does that affect you? Because knowing your personality, and something about Cayla, if you guys aren't familiar with her, you know, she goes and gets it. You go after it. You're an early adopter. You're an action taker. You have a relentless pursuit that is so admirable. And I wish I had more of that in me. I'm just not wired that way.
Yeah.
And I imagine in your mind, you have to have a shitstorm that goes on in there sometimes because of how ambitious you are and how much you want to accomplish. And then you see how fast time goes by.
Yeah. Oh.
How do you manage that?
Well, so I feel like I'm a very different person now than even just 4 years ago, because my kids are older. Time is even more precious because you think when they're little, right? I had 3 kids under the age of 4. And so when they're that little, you think, oh my gosh, like they're not gonna, like this is the best time and they need me so much right now. But they really don't. Like, yeah, they need you for like the basic needs. But as they get older, they need you even more. You know, like I have a 13-year-old.
It's like deeper stuff.
It's deeper stuff. It's mental. And it's like, you know, my 13-year-old, like he's going through all the changes. Like he's just now hitting puberty. And then my 11-year-old, she's already hitting puberty. Like, and there's a lot of like, it's crazy how much more they need you. And so I had to restructure my life about 3 years ago to go like, I cannot work as much. In 2020, I had 18 events planned.
What?
Mm-hmm. 18 events. And then the pandemic hit like a week before we were supposed to leave for Bali on a mastermind trip. And it made me go like, and you know, people were pissed at me and I was like, dude, can I control a pandemic? Like I have no control over the fact that we cannot meet in person, you know?
Exactly.
It was crazy. And so it made me go like, these people, like, they don't really like, they want me to change their life, you know? And I know I can. But like really at the end of the day, like I'm just another person to them. Like, but who do I actually matter to that like they really love me unconditionally? My kids. And I need to stop putting these people first And these people are my first priority, which my kids were always they were the reason why I did everything I said. But then I found myself like, why am I working so hard for these people that like, they need me more than I need them. I need my kids happy. So I had to restructure my life. I shut down several like multi-million-dollar income streams, which the events space was for me. And I just decided I don't want to do that anymore because it takes so much energy out of me.
That's why I always would say to you, anyone, you know, who has an event, I speak at events. That's why I do my best to like, I'm going to help, even if I'm not asked, like I'm selling tickets for you, right? Like I'm all about that because it is a tremendous undertaking. Yep. It's so much work. So you let that go. And I know you also made some moves away from your network marketing model that you were in too, right? Yep. So tell us about how you did that psychologically, because it can be very scary when you've put so much time, energy, and money into something. It's bringing you money, which does support your family and does afford amazing things. And to let those go, like, what was your cost analysis?
Okay, so looking back on it, like, you know, hindsight is always 20/20. Like, you could see it perfectly and what you would have done differently. But in those moments, somebody's got to be the villain, right? And for me, I just made that network marketing company was the villain. So I made them wrong about everything so I could just turn away and cut them out of my life. That was my coping mechanism at the time. Same thing I did with the events. You know, basically, I hate people. Kind of like, you know what I mean?
That's me every Friday.
Yeah. You know, but it was like, that was how I got through that. And I still believe that it was totally designed by God to happen the way that it happened because I'm a stronger person now. I think I needed to cut the ties of all of that to really step into who I'm meant to be now. And it's also caused Chase, my husband, to flourish his business. Like he started it in 2020 and it has been a slow grind. Last week he had a huge week, like something that I don't know if I would ever even have in my coaching business. Like I am so freaking proud of him. He would have never done that had we not had the necessity of him going, I got to make some money, you know? So it's been really interesting how all of that like worked out for us, but somebody had to be the villain. So I hated them. I had anger around a lot of things. And then I healed. I took some time to heal and I realized like, wow, I'm thankful for that time in my life, but I really needed to cut the cord and move forward to my destiny. And that's not it.
Did you have a lot of relationships shift in your life during that time? Because I notice in my life when I've made shifts, whether it's shifts of growth or I've needed to go to different directions, it also really jumbles things up on the personal side of my life.
I lost my best friends. Yeah. And I think that's my only regret in life is how I handled that with certain friendships that actually meant a lot to me. I didn't handle it right, but it, you know, you do the best you can with what you have in that moment. And, you know, it's that one thing like, oh gosh. But I also think that sometimes we keep friendships because they're comfortable. And I don't know if those friendships were going to help me be the person I am today, you know?
Exactly. Like if those friendships were supposed to still be intact at that level,
yeah,
God would have designed it to be that way.
100%.
Yeah, it's tough though when you lose people that are close to you. And I also feel there's a grieving process of like leaving a certain career behind.
Yes.
Or even like I have clients where they have certain programs or courses or offerings that they've done for years and they're leaving that behind. They don't want to do it anymore. Did you have a period where you were kind of grieving it, or was it the anger that was like getting you through it?
Yeah, I think it was the anger, but I still like people with Mommy Millionaire, you know, people were upset with me about it because
for changing the
brand. And I'm like, I'm still the same. We're going to still talk about the same thing, but I wanted it to be more inclusive, you know? And like people would ask me all the time, like, do I have to be a mom? I'm like, no, you know? So, but people had it on their vision board, Mommy Millionaire. Like they wanted to be able to like walk across some imaginary stage that was never like, I wasn't giving out awards to people for being a Mommy Millionaire, but you know, I had made such a movement around it that I didn't know it was going to affect people in that way. And I have kind of like grieved maybe what could have been with Mommy Millionaire, but instead I'm just trying to right now like focus on what I'm creating before the kids, like getting back to that question of like how I just want to spend more time with them. Like, it's crazy. Like, I just want to spend, that's why, like, even on these podcasting days, I'm doing like one day, getting all my content done.
Yeah, you do what I do, like intentional
Yep.
batching,
Yep.
hyper focus, because that gives you time back in other places.
Exactly. Like, because I don't have a nanny, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like, I personally,
I didn't know that, actually.
No, I don't have a nanny.
I'm shooketh by this.
Yeah. So I do have like a house manager that does all our laundry and cleaning and stuff like that. But I am so weird about people driving my kids. I take them everywhere. Every sporting event.
As someone who had a driver who abused me, I appreciate that you're cognizant and very protective of that.
I'm very protective over my kids.
Yeah. I know that.
Yeah.
And you should be.
Yeah.
Everybody take note of that.
Exactly.
Not to make you paranoid, but like...
But they should be a little paranoid.
Yeah, because it's the people who are closest that do the shadiest stuff.
Yep.
In all areas of life. The people who have stolen from me were my long-term employees.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and that's like ends up what happened. It's like what happened.
Well, you get so comfortable with people. You know?
And I know for me, and I'm curious where I call them kind of like weak spots. It's like if you pick up an apple, you know, and there's like a little weak spot in it.
Yeah,
of course, I refuse to eat it then.
Yeah, it's in the trash.
I'm like, exactly. Like, I can't eat it. It's like ruined, right? And my weak spot is when I'm like loyal to a fault. I will fight for, once you're in, it's hard to get in, but once you're in, you're in. And like, I can be blinded by it, and there could be red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
What are some of like your weak spots that you have to manage, and have like coaches and other people in your life that help point things out to you?
Yeah, I think that up until recently, I really let my heartstrings get played quickly, where I would give money, make investments. Like, if my heartstrings, like, they could just be played by anybody. If I felt bad for you, I was going to do something for you. And what I realized, because I grew up, you know, with a single mom, my dad in jail, and I always I realize now it was a victim mindset, but I always felt like, gosh, if somebody could just help me, right? If somebody would just like lend a hand out and help me, like my life would be different. And I had that story. So I was like, I always want to be that person to like reach a hand out. But sometimes when you're the savior and you have the savior complex of always trying to help everybody, you're not giving that person the opportunity to rise up and see what they're capable of. Right. And so I would always give. And then I'm just like heavily disappointed by people and the way that they, you know, do things. Like, Chase and I have helped so many people, and then, you know, we would get hurt by them or something like that. And it's like, okay, when I go back to God and I'm like, why, how did this happen? He's like, stop letting your heartstrings get played. Let them rise to the occasion. And that's been recent now, where I'm just like, I gotta say no. I gotta stand my ground and not help everybody. Unless it's like literally like God has to come down like from the sky and like tell me at this point if I have to help somebody, like, because, you know, it's just I have to guard myself more in that way and guard my children's legacy.
Would you say that in the past you've been like a people pleaser, where you put a lot of people's needs ahead of your own?
No, I'm not a people pleaser in that way. It's more like if I found out somebody was struggling financially, it would be like I would just move heaven and earth to try to help them. You know what I mean? Or like giving them money, helping them, give them money to start a business. And then they don't have any skin in the game, so they just lose money, you know? And
that's like the people who always want like scholarships to programs and offers of ours. Now, I do about $250,000 in scholarships a year. But like once that's done. And you have to like apply for it.
And there's a process for it.
And it's just blows my mind, because it's like, I know what would happen if I just gave it to you. Right? It's like when they give out, like, you know, companies used to give out, like in the pharma world, like free pens, and you'd get a free like squeezy stress ball, and we'd have all these like giveaways that we would do in that industry. And it's like, these ended up in people's trash. Like, no one really used them, and you're spending all this money. It's like most people don't value
free
what they don't pay for, which is why I always tell people, like, your friends and family, like, stop thinking those are the people who should be buying from you or paying for you. Like, those aren't, they don't see the value. Not that they don't find you valuable, but they don't see it in the same way. They think they should like,
Get a homie
you should
hookup.
like, yeah, you should design their entire business and do all of that for free because you're my cousin, or you were my neighbor back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And sometimes I would find myself like doing all of that without even having to be without even being asked, and then being mad that somebody didn't follow, you know? And I realized that was just like bad spirits. Like people have to go on their own journey, and I just got to like let go of control and surrender.
What would you say is the most challenging part as you're like growing this new rebrand and you're having a book come out and you're doing all these exciting things, and it's fresh, it's new, you're going to a whole nother level with things? What's the hardest part in that for you mentally? Because it's a mind game. You know what the hell you're doing for the most part. I mean, none of us really know everything, right? But like, you know at least who to ask. You're willing to ask. You have help. It's not really about that.
That's a good question. I think that the hardest part in all of this is knowing and staying connected to the vision of why I wanted the book in the first place. Why did I start the podcast in the first place? Because, you know, I found myself like, okay, I got the deal and it was a great deal. Now we got to sell the book. And everybody I was talking to that are authors, that are best-selling authors, they're like, hire this guy, you know, and follow this track, and you're going to be a New York Times bestseller. And I'm like, okay, but why do I want New York Times bestseller?
And why does it matter? Like,
exactly. Right. And so I went on this whole thing, and I had so many conversations with different people, and they're like, okay, like, here's what it takes to make the list. And I was like, gosh, like, this is like a lot of work. Okay. And I am not, you know, I'm not scared of a lot of work,
right.
But it's like, if it's really meant to be, I want to know that it happened because the book was great and because I like authentically marketed the book well. You know what I mean? And not because I manipulated algorithms.
Because you bought all the pre-orders.
Right. Right. And I mean, I had that conversation. Well, what's it going to take? Like, what's the max it's going to cost me? And she was like, $400,000. I said, I'm not willing to do that.
Wow.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Because there are some people that buy themselves just directly on the list. Right. And I was like, you know, I mean, honestly, if she would have said 100, I would have probably just secured the spot. But 400, I was like, God, that's like a couple houses. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if it doesn't happen, maybe it'll happen with the next book. Like, why does it matter so much? Is that really going to make me make more money? No, it's not. But is it going to take time away from my kids that I'm not going to get back? Yeah. So I'm not willing to do that. So here's what I'm willing to do. Here's the container. See what you can do with it.
I think it's going to do a million times better because you didn't do that, because that's not an integrity for you.
Yeah.
And we don't need to manipulate a game for what I know is in that book. And I've not read it. I mean, I want an advance copy.
You're on the list. Okay. You're on the list.
I'm like, you better throw me a bone. Think of the best books that we've read, or even articles that we've read. Most of these people, we don't know their names until later, like the book blew up later, and what does it matter?
Yeah.
What are we doing it for?
Well, and that's where I was like, okay, the book is called What Do You Really Want? It's a Take 7 approach to getting what you want in life and giving you more meaning, connection, and abundance. And I'm like, okay, the person I wrote this book for is really for every woman who gets stuck and doesn't know what they want. They're living somebody else's dream for their life. And it's pretty much everybody, right? Like we've all been at that moment in our lives where we're like, gosh, like, am I really happy? Do I really want this stuff that's in front of me? Like, do I want to keep on this trajectory? And writing the book was actually so cathartic for me because I'm writing the book called What Do You Really Want? First of all, it wasn't named that yet. It was called Love Little Me. And as I wrote the book, I figured out like, gosh, like it was this whole rebranding with Mommy Millionaire. I'm like, I'm going through my whole process again as I'm writing this book. And I'm like, I have to be authentic, like with where I'm headed and what I really want to do. And, you know, what I'm talking about is like long-term investments, like playing for the long haul, because I want to spend more and more time with my kids. I don't want to be working as much. Like when all my kids are in high school, I do not want to be.
I mean, I'm not impressed when someone is telling me how much they work. Like, I'm not like, when people do that, like, this is why I'm like, I'm very entertaining to watch at like a party or a networking event. Thank God my face is truly frozen in time, because
I need to get my Botox
when
done again.
people are like
you're inspiring
going
me.
on and on about, you know, how much they work and they're so busy and they're exhausted. Now, I used to be this person, mind you. Okay. So I'm calling myself out. But it's, you know who I'm impressed with? I'm impressed with the people who like live around my beach house, who are living in like a $60 million beach house, like my neighbor, who is literally wearing the same sweatpants that he's worn for 5 days. Mm-hmm. And he is out there trimming his hedges because he's bored with tiny little scissors.
It makes
and
him
he's
happy.
He's delighted.
Yeah. And you can't find much on Google about him, right?
No, nothing. Of course I tried. Absolutely I tried.
I know. So like, that's what I really found out is like, I do want to help people, and I know this book is going to change lives, and that's what matters the most. And it's going to happen because I did a fantastic job at marketing, which is a game for me. And like, that's where I'm like, how am I going to make, you said, you know, the more fun I have, the more money I make. It's like, marketing is fun.
I think it's so fun.
It's so fun. Like, okay, what is going to make, because people always say it's the hardest thing in the world to get people to buy a $30 book.
Oh, really?
They say,
I've never heard this.
Oh my gosh. Every author I've talked to, because I
have like 1,000 books.
Me too.
So
I was like, what? I was like, anytime I'm listening to any podcast, I'm buying up at least a couple books. And so anyways, I just thought everybody was like me. But apparently, like, it's actually easier to get people to buy like $10,000 programs than it is to get them to buy the book, because they think it's not going to be anything extra or special than what like they already know about you or what they heard about on the podcast. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, I'm going to market my book in a whole different way. Like, I'm going to have fun with the marketing of this book.
And please tell me you're not going to do the same cookie cutter thing that I've seen every person who's put out a book in the last 3 years. I can't handle it.
So I will like the guy that I'm talking about
like, shakes.
He runs with all those people, and I get messages from him all the time. Are you ready to go? You're ready to go? And I'm like, I'm not going to play that whole game. I'm just not going to do it anymore.
We don't need a cake. Unless you really want a cake, like the cake and blue. I mean, if you want it, that's fine. But like, you know what I'm saying? Have fun with it. Be a vision for it. Like,
try something new.
Absolutely.
So I had this whole vision because the reason why I am who I am today is because I had a dad that was incarcerated for most of my life, and I was always happy when he was in prison. And that sounds weird because people are like, why would you be happy? I knew he was safe there. Like, because he actually would get healthy.
He's an addict, right?
Yeah, he's an addict. So he would get healthy. He used to be a firefighter, actually, like in the prisons. Did you know that they could do that?
No.
Like, he made like 30 cents an hour.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, they had volunteer firefighters. But I don't know. It was like a special programming, you know, like if you were on good duty. I don't know if they still do it. But anyway, I was like happy. And every time he'd come back out, I mean, it'd be a couple months later, he's back in jail because they just don't know how to acclimate to real life. And I'm like, gosh, there has to be something to do, like why God gave me the dad that he gave me and why I now have this influence that I have. And I've been praying like, God, I don't want my influence to be in vain for money. Like, I don't want that. I want to really change lives. And this download happened where it's like, okay, we're going to help incarcerated people get what they want. So that way they can actually change the trajectory of their families' lives, because 2.4 million people are incarcerated right now in the US alone. Okay. 113 million people are affected by those that are incarcerated. Because you think about it, it's like me, my little brother, my mom, my aunts and uncles, like everybody's affected by this one, person. How can we help them turn their street hustle into a holy hustle? And so the book is going to help these incarcerated people. We're going to donate a bunch of books to them and help them go through an entrepreneur in training course. And it's going to be amazing. And
That's
it's going to
awesome.
change so many people's lives because they can actually make money while they're incarcerated, and they can now give that money to their kids, to their families, and really like have the skills that it takes and the network that it takes to get back on their feet, to not go back to the old ways.
And even the hope and the self-esteem,
Yes.
self-worth, because I feel what keeps so many people in the system and addicted as well is the shame.
Shame cycle. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so much spiritual warfare. And so, yeah, we're combating that with the book. So I'm really excited. Like, that's one thing that we're doing differently, because everybody that buys 100 books, we're donating them to the prison. Plus they get to come with me into prisons all around the country and to coach and train entrepreneurs.
Wow. I love that.
Isn't that cool?
Well, you've put an extra layer of heart and a cause behind it.
Yeah.
That even though I don't have anyone I know that's incarcerated, like, I want to be a part of it because it's a great cause.
Yeah.
And you're someone where I've always been so fascinated, where you really are like a definition of fearless. But I also know that's not true at the same time. There's no one that's fearless.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
Yeah.
It's that you feel the fear and you show up and do it anyway.
Well, fear is a spirit. Fear is a spirit. I really, truly believe that. There is so much. We are made in the image of God. That's what I believe. So I'm made perfect and like whole and complete. I have everything I need to complete my mission on this earth, right? And what happens is all of these things that I think are strongholds start to get attached to us. And they happen at birth. Like, they happen in the womb, actually. You know, like, you pick up on your parents' things. You also bring in ancestral DNA to your life, right? And so when you start to realize and you start to take authority and dominion over your world, then it becomes a lot easier. It's not fearless. Yes, I see the fear and I say, I rebuke it. Get out of here. What's my purpose? Why am I here? You know, and I fall out of agreement with fear and go, okay, like, I am actually, if I'm made in the image of God, I have everything I need. I am bold and courageous, and I'm going to take this action. Because if I have my heart beating, air in my lungs, there's a reason why I'm here right now, right? And so we just got to keep moving forward.
Why do you think it is that so many people from all different denominations, all over the world, all different backgrounds, a majority of people are truly stuck in fear?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because it's a stronghold. And I, you know, people will go, okay, Cayla, because people love to feel good all the time, and I love feeling good, but people don't realize that there's darkness in the world. So there is light and there is dark. And that is just like what I believe. And when I used to believe, oh, there's only good things, I was naive and I got screwed over all the time. So you just got to, like, for me, it's about like accepting there's both. Okay. There's good and there's bad people. There just is. And so now that I'm aware that there's darkness and bad things out there, I'm not going to be naive to it. Okay. So you have to know that the fear keeps you from living out your full destiny. And so darkness wants you to stay covered in fear. So they'll use the same traps of getting you to not believe in yourself, getting you to care about what other people think, getting you to relive your past and remember all the bad things that you've done, all the mistakes you've made in the past. It's the same things, like over and over and over again. And you could choose to like lift the veil off of your eyes. Like, that's I think a biblical thing. Like, lift the veil off your eyes and actually see the world how God created it. And what you're going to see is that you have everything at your fingertips to be whatever it is that God has placed in your heart to be. You have everything that you need. The people, the gifts, the talents, and all you need to do is, remember, lift the veil off your eyes and see what's actually happening in the spirit world. And you're going to see, wow, like, all of that stuff is just an illusion. Like, all of that stuff is not real. Fear is not real. Okay. Shame is not real. I'm going to choose something different today. If I look at myself in the mirror and I see I'm a bold and courageous person who has a purpose, and I'm focused on like what's going to happen for this person today if I show up in my fullest form today. Darkness doesn't want that to happen. So
no, and it wants you to stay silent.
Exactly.
Which is why I've had that stronghold on me about my book.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That just came up for me when we were talking, because it's like, of course, because the truth, where does the truth come out? The truth also comes out when we write. It's very powerful. When it's like fear, the spirit, darkness, whatever someone wants to call it, it wants to keep you stuck. It wants to minimize you. It wants to keep you silent and settling.
Yes. So I think it's really important. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want to call it, right? But people have made fear a part of their identity. They've made certain things that are strongholds actually a part of their identity. And I think that's a lie that continues to entrap them so they don't live out their full purpose. But when you can learn to dissociate things, right? That is not me. This is not actually a part of my identity. The shame, the condemnation, the guilt, the manipulation, control, all of the things. Like, that is actually not how God made me to be. I'm going to dissociate from that. And this is why, like, you could not believe it, right? Like, you could completely think that I'm a freaking wackadoo on this podcast right now. But try it out. Like, try dissociating from it and see how it works for you. Because you're going to go, oh.
Because what you're currently doing, if you're in a state of, fear and stuckness and riddled with self-doubt and aren't happy, like, what do you have to lose by trying something out? Like, people are really gaslighting themselves if you think about it. Like, it becomes self-manipulation, and I'm not saying everyone's aware of it. I don't think so. I wouldn't have been aware of things until someone made me aware, which is why we're having this conversation. It's like that self-manipulation where it was like, but I can't do this. Like, even, starting the podcast, I was like, well, who am I? I'm not like a famous person. Who in the hell is going to listen to me? And got so caught up in that I didn't start it for years. And there's many people that aren't doing things and putting their gifts out there because of that. But it seems like you're pretty quick. Like, you don't stay in that very long.
Yeah. And I'm not like that 100% of the time. But the majority of the time, I'm able to go and just take authority. And I've had my wall kicking moments, or my moments where I'm in my closet floor just going, okay, why? Like, recently this last year, I had such a traumatic thing happen to me in my business, and like betrayal at like the highest level. And I was on my like knees, like praying to God, like, why did you let this happen to me? Like, why? I don't get it. Like, I have done so many things right in my life. Like, why do I have to go through this? And he was like, stand. Like, I like firmly heard a voice that was like, stand. And I'm like, what the frick? Like, are you joking me right now? Like, I'm like wrestling, contending with God. Like, why? And he's like, stand up, get up, fight. And that was when it kind of like, I was like, oh, this is happening for me, because if I'm going to go to that next level, I got to be willing to fight for it. And most people are not willing to fight for their dreams. Most people, once it's first sign of any type of resistance or any type of like feedback negative from anybody, it's like, oh, bow down. I'm over. I'm done. Roll over and die. It's like, no, fight. If you really believe in something, get up and fight for it every single day.
And they will come, by the way.
Every day.
They will come, and I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I have a moment. I mean, I do. I have a moment, and it's like takes less and less time now for me to like process it through my nervous system.
Yeah.
But I have a moment. But I mean, think of like Taylor Swift or all these like major celebrities. They have thousands of hate pages.
Right.
It's like the more you shine, you're going to have more darkness come. But the shining moments, the people you help always outweigh it.
Always.
But I have to remind myself.
Yep.
And some people are they nasty. Like nasty. Just like filled with such hate.
Yeah. And but then once you start, like, this is really helpful for me when everybody can have their own beliefs. But for me, once I realized it was all spiritual, I really took the human and the spirit aside. I said, okay, I'm going to see this person how God made them to be. Because remember, I'm made in the image of God. This person's made in the image of God. They just don't see themselves as that yet because they have the veil over their eyes. They have negative spirits attached to them. So I'm actually going to pray for them, and I'm going to bless them and just say, like, I wish nothing for the best, like nothing but the best for this person. And I pray that they turn from their wicked ways and have a new life. But Lord, take this person out of my life. Take them far from me. Like, I don't want any more experiences like that. But that seems to really help me, is just to like pray for that person. And it's really hard. But
I love that. No, there's a list of people I need to pray for.
Because this is what happens is, like, listen, when you can pray for your enemies, what does that say about you?
How strong your faith is.
And you're ready for that next level.
Yeah.
You can handle more. And so that's what it's about. It's like, okay, like I've just learned to gamify all of this. It's like, okay, yeah, the more that haters come, I'm like, oh, it's just a lesson here. All right, like what is the lesson here? I'm ready to move to the next level.
And all the hundreds of thousands of people that you've coached at this point, mentored, coached, influenced, all the things, what would you say is the thread of the maybe 10% is even being too generous of people who are successful, follow through, stay in the game, keep showing up? Can you now identify pretty quickly early on who those people are going to be?
Yes, absolutely. People that, okay, we all have mom wounds and we have daddy wounds too.
Yes, I have a lot of both.
Okay. But we all do. Like we all do in all of our, I mean, the doctor that was on my show earlier today, he calls it little T and big T stuff that happens. But we all have our stuff, and it makes us into who we are and how we feel safe. And if you have not learned how to feel safe in your own body, being authentically who God has meant you to be, you're going to really struggle. You're really going to struggle. So if you're not willing to do the work on your nervous system to feel safe collaborating with other people, you're going to really struggle in this day and age, because we know this, in order to get to where you want to go, you need a team. So even if you don't want to talk to anybody, right, you got to hire people that are going to help you succeed. You've got to get over some of these wounds and trust people and help that, like, and really believe that some of these people actually do want your vision to come to fruition, right?
I'm like going to start crying because this is like, see, I knew we were supposed to talk right now at this time, because one of my biggest fears is I've had so many people say they're there and they support me and they believe in the vision and they're there. And then that knife comes in, man. And I'm challenged with trusting that I will have the support going to, this next level. Because wow, does that really hurt me and my inner child? It's like, how do you get to a place of reestablishing that trust that there are people who genuinely want to support you and be there while you're shining?
Yeah.
I have a lot of people who love when Tiff's knocked down.
Yep.
Okay.
Makes them feel really comfortable and good about themselves.
Yes. But Tiff shining and really expanding, I can actually energetically feel it from people.
So first of all, I love you, and I'm so excited for where you're going, because I know that God has a big plan. Like, even that's why I said, like earlier, I'm like household name. Like, I really see that for you. And it is going to take people to help you, even just like collaborations like this, like just like getting with the right people that truly have your best at heart. And I think the more that you dive into the spiritual world, the easier it's going to be for you, because God's going to give you discernment over people, and just pray for that muscle to continue to happen. Because I always, like, if I meet somebody, I'm like, Lord, shut the door on this person immediately if they are not for me and my highest good.
Ooh, I like that. Okay.
You have the authority to ask for those things. Remember, ask, believe, receive. Always.
How do you move past, because you said you had like your biggest disappointment, horrible thing that happened in your business this last year? How did you help get back to a place of being able to trust and call in and even seek out support for where you're going, even though I know you have to have that wound?
Yeah, well, because I went and looked back, and I tried to always look at everything as a lesson. And I'm like, what were the red flags here? And again, this is where my heartstrings, that I was manipulated.
Yeah.
And
same.
I let them get played.
Same.
And so that's where it's like, okay, Cayla, if you're going to go to this next level, guard your heartstrings. Guard your heart above all else. You can love people, but it doesn't mean you get to get played by people. And so, it's even having those employees and going like, okay, I trust you to do your job, but again, this is a job and I need you to like do your job. And if you're not, you're not going to cut it anymore. And just like having standards for people in your life, like most people do really easily. But for us that have been like wounded by people that are close to us, it's really hard to do.
That's why. Like, I joke about it because I am hard to wrangle. But why I've been hard to wrangle was I've had some people really, wow, like where I did not see that they're actually like an evil person. Like straight up evil. Because my mom, everyone on this show knows, like my mom's a narcissist, right? So like but I've gone through a gazillion years of therapy and all sorts of trauma healing. You would think I'd be able to identify, right? Like someone's a narcissist. This is a sick person.
No, yeah.
No, and some people are like masterful levels of this stuff, and I didn't see it.
That's the Jezebel spirit. It's witchcraft at its highest.
And I'm scared. I'm scared. And knowing that, like, and I appreciate you sharing, you went through like, some stuff, like hard stuff in your business and disappointment with people and friendships lost, because I don't think there's enough conversations about this.
No, there isn't. It's so hard when you're in it. And now that I'm like, I wish I could give you a hug. I love you. Betrayal sucks. Like when you are a smart person, like you're a very smart and successful person, when somebody pulls the wool over your eyes, it's the worst type of feeling, because you're like, how did I not see this coming? Right? But at that, it's a spirit of shame and condemnation. Like, wow, you weren't good enough to see that.
Yeah,
you thought you were on your A game.
That's where exactly I went, is shame and self-blame. Like, how didn't you see this? Oh my God.
That's
like,
little Tiff. That's her coping mechanism, is to self-shame.
Yeah.
So the original question was, how do you do it? It's like, I nurture my inner child by loving on her, making sure she's the one having play, actually. So I will ask little Cayla, like, what do you want to do? And usually I just want to go to the beach, because that was something I always wished I could have growing up. So
in Bakersfield.
Yeah. And so I'll just go to the beach, and I feel like I'm nurtured in that moment. And so I'm in the perfect place for that. And then I'm like, okay, big Cayla, what do we need to do today? And like really like going, okay, my best is all I can do. I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to pick wrong people. I'm going to pick enough good people too. And all I can do is pray protection over my life, over my business. And I see now, looking back, I'm like, all of this had to happen the way that it happened in order for me to go to my next level, because God heard conversations that I didn't.
Ooh.
Like the amount of people that have left my life this year has been like, wow, like never saw it.
That was my 2022.
Oh,
I called it the year of the reckoning. It was crazy.
It's painful.
So painful.
But look at what's happening for you now.
Exactly. And I shared this on another episode. I was so loyal to my original podcast producer, who I sent him so much business. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever. He had to fire me. And he was actually holding back the show. So God did that for me, what I couldn't do for myself.
He will.
Because I was like, oh, well, he's good, but I made excuses, but he's like always been there.
Yeah.
But he was one of the cogs holding back the show's growth.
Wow.
And then he fired me.
I love it.
Because I one time said, hey, like you messed up a guest interview. We need to fix this, like stat. This is a high priority guest. Their PR person's going to like come after me. And that was too much for him, and he fired me.
Oh my gosh.
But I can see, I mean, and during a launch, of course, because that's how that goes, right? But I can laugh now because that had to happen, and look at the receipts.
Yeah. Wow.
And look at your receipts. It's like, it sounds like what you're saying is God, higher power, whatever you guys are look to, is setting things up and removing things that are in your way that you don't even realize are in your way.
Because God will prosper your mistakes.
What does that mean?
So because we're not going to get it right 100% of the time. We're just not. Like, right? Okay, I should have fired that guy a long time ago.
Facts,
right?
Yeah.
Part of my issue with this one person is I should have fired her a long time ago too, right? And then it's like things have to blow up in my face for me to see it, okay? But like, I didn't get it right. what's God going to do next is he's going to have grace on my mistakes, and something's going to come even more beautiful out of this whole thing, out of this mess. It's like now I have more talking points. Do you know what I mean? That's one way I could look at it. And also I have like this like BS ticker and this red flag. I'm looking for lots of different red flags in people now, because it's like, oh, I had the wool pulled over my eyes for several years and because of this person, right? And so it's like, I know what to look for. I know what things and like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it had to happen this way. And Romans 8:28 is my favorite Bible verse. And it says like, God's going to turn everything for your good and his glory. So like what the devil meant to destroy, he's going to come in and make it good no matter what. Because like you're not here to suffer on this planet. And I think that's what a lot of us like sometimes get stuck in, like when we're in our stuff as entrepreneurs. Like that's actually not the plan for your life. You're like, there are plans to prosper you. And so if you just believe and trust that like you're here to have a good life, to live an abundant life, what would that look like? And you just like live more into that. And what I realized after writing my book, it's gosh, my abundant life is actually spending more time with my kids and like having cash flowing assets that pay for my lifestyle. A book's going to be a cash flowing asset for me. Like people say you can't make money from your book. I'm like, I rebuke that.
I agree. I think, why can't you? It's people, everyone
I'm going to make so much money from my book.
Didn't people tell you can't make money from a podcast?
Yes.
I mean, and what's funny is some of those people have podcasts now. And they're not invited on the show. But I mean, I think it's why is that the case?
Yeah. Don't like come over with your limiting beliefs on me, because that stuff's contagious. I'm like, no, stay back. Stay away over there, because I'm going to make a lot of money from my book. And it's going to be something that's going to pay me for the rest of my life. I mean, let's think about Think and Grow Rich. One of the greatest books of all time that was ever written. Does he have to go out there and still tell people to buy his book?
No.
Who's getting the royalties? Probably his family, hopefully. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like if you really trust that everything's happening for you, like and your highest good, then like you're going to move differently, and because you trust that everything really is going to work out.
So the question is, if you truly adopted that belief that everything is really happening for me, it's for the greatest good, even the stuff that's painful is ultimately happening for my greatest good, for a divine reason, a greater divine purpose, even beyond your wildest imagination, well, then what would you do? Then it would be really wild to not show up and take action. But you have to have that belief first. And that's why, like, legit, sometimes we only get that belief because we've been knocked down, you know, because you've been knocked down so many times, and it was kind of like God telling me to stand up. And I'm like, yeah, if I really want this, I'm going to fight for it. You know? Do you believe that you can truly focus and help a lot of people and lead with that first and make a lot of money? Or do you believe that like the money part has to be led first? There's so many people that are listening that are heart-based entrepreneurs, creatives, spiritual entrepreneurs, and they get stuck in this belief of, well, if in order to make money, you can't also really have a heart and be helping the people.
Yeah, that is such a lie. That is such a lie that you have bought into for so long, and you're playing too small because of it, right? Because I believe that just the more people you help, the more money you'll always make. And so if you keep that at the forefront, is like, how can I help more people today with your creative services or whatever it is that you do, and you're coming from that place, like you're really going to be happy if you help one person today. The money's always going to come. But once you get stuck on the money, which I've totally been there before, and you get stuck on the metrics, that's when your heart slowly starts to die.
That's when you're an ego.
Yep.
I've done it too.
Yeah.
To where the fear comes in, the spirit comes in, or was it last? No, it was 2022, my year of the reckoning. I think it was January 2022. It was my lowest month in both of my businesses. Like shocking. Like I don't understand what's happening. And like, here I thought like January is like supposed to be popping, you know, like new year, new me. And it was like when I'm talking like borderline crickets. I was tripping, and I absolutely went into ego. I mean, thankfully, because of, you know, the work I do and my inner circle I surround myself with, I was able to get out of it. But I was probably in it for like most of the month where I was like, I have to figure it out. I have to be able to make the money. Now, meanwhile, I have millions in the bank. I'm not short on money, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't want to lose it all. And I have this, I have all these people I pay. And I'm like, this is
well,
crazy.
and you're used to winning too. And so
Yeah,
when
that
that doesn't happen, you're like, whoa, what's happening here?
And I was like, then it was also, okay, like this was a short-lived thing. Like maybe this isn't happening. All the thoughts
the
came
lack
out.
and poverty.
All the things came out. And I was like, now I'm going to live in a tent with my office supplies. Like, what's happening? And I started going, I have to figure it out. I got away from my heart and I got stuck in my head.
Anytime you're ever saying in your head, I have to figure it out, bad place to
It's
be.
bad.
Bad place to be. Like, go for a run, go to the beach, like do the exact opposite of what you think.
Anything. Oh my God. And I was, and as someone who's like a hardcore Virgo trauma survivor, it's not hard for me to like live in my head, and it can be dangerous up there. But when you do that energetically, people can feel it. Also, you do crazy things. All of us do. Like pure craziness.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see like my Google search history from that period. I wonder if there's a way to find it. I would totally show it. It would be it'd be insane. You guys would really know how crazy I am.
Yeah.
And,
we go down a rabbit hole.
And then what happened in February? Once I released it, right? I had to surrender it. I had to, and like that's usually the last thing I remember to do.
Is to surrender.
Yeah, where I was like, God, this is bigger than me. I'm surrendering this to you. I know I've lost my mind. I've lost my way. I need help. And it can't be a half surrender. And I do some of those. Whereas like a half surrender, here's how it worked, like my analogy for it. It's like you post a video and you're like, I know this is a great video and it's going to help some people and whatever. It's going to do whatever it does. But then you keep like refreshing to see how many views it got.
You're so caught up in it. Yeah.
That's a half surrender. And it's like once I got to a true surrender, you can feel it in your body. And once I did that, I'm not even kidding you, like maybe 48 hours later, I got one of like my biggest contracts I ever had gotten.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But not until I surrendered.
Yeah.
But so many people are living their lives, and the old me did, in a life of half surrenders or a life of no surrender.
Yeah.
Not even knowing that's an option. Just holding it all and taking it all on and having to figure it out.
So heavy.
How do you set things up so you remind yourself to get to a point of true surrender?
Well, your environment is so important. So if you hang out with people who are a bunch of control freaks, you're the fifth control freak, But if you hang out with people who are living a life of surrender, taking big risk, like going all in on their dream, it's helpful for you because you're like, okay, like I'm going to go ask this person what they did when they felt like everything was falling apart. And they're going to go, oh, I just trusted the process. Or, they say something like that. And it's really annoying when you're in it when somebody says, just take a step back. Because you want to just go in and fix everything. But when you're around really successful people that will remind you that you don't have to have it all figured out. It's who, not how. And they help you have a different perspective on things. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna just like breathe on this, let this marinate with me for 24 hours and know that if it's meant for me, if something is meant for you, it's meant for you. Like you can't mess it up, right? You just have to show up for it. And I think like a lot of people, they don't show up for it. It's like that story of somebody was drowning and God sent them a helicopter and they said it was too windy. And then they were sent a life,
preserver.
A life preserver. And like they couldn't get to it. And it was like all of these like excuses, but they were things that were coming that like was trying to save his life. And he gets up to heaven and is like, God, why didn't you help me? And he's like, I sent you this. Like a long list of like all these things, And so we've got to take a step back from our situation and see the actual opportunities in front of us because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And so stop looking and chasing the money. Stop. Like the moment you stop doing that and you go, what are my gifts and what are my talents that only I can give out to the world today? And how do I just multiply it? And how do I give more? Because like you were made to be a multiplier.
And if you don't know what the hell you're doing, then you should hire someone that you feel called to, that you feel will be honest with you, that has a version of what you want.
Oh, always have a coach.
I mean, I have
always
3 and a psychiatrist.
I remember when I remember we were in a hotel room. I can't remember why. And I think you were getting your makeup done or something like that. And you're like, oh, I have this guy. He's been my coach for ever. And I'm like, well, how often do you talk to him? You go, I don't talk to him. I just keep him on retainer in case I need to talk to him.
$10,000 a month, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, what? That's a thing? And that changed so much for me, because I was like, wow, like I could do that for people. I'm going to set myself up in that way. But that is so helpful when you're going to new stages, to just know I have a support system. I can call that person if I need to tap into their wisdom and stuff like that. I don't need to talk to them all the time, and I realize, I want to be that person for people.
It's amazing. And I love having that support, and I love providing that support, because I know how much that helps when you're in that spot.
Yep.
And it's usually like mental stuff.
Oh my gosh. When this whole thing happened this last year, it's crazy. I had just hired a coach probably like 30 days before, not knowing anything like this was going to happen, obviously. Right. But I mean, it was like God knew. And I had this support. Like I was talking to her every single day, because it was just like, talk me off the ledge, like help me see. Because it was like bomb after bomb after bomb for probably like 60 days.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like it was like, when is it going to let up?
And isn't that such a blessing for you to have also experienced being on the receiving end?
Oh my gosh.
Of being poured into, and knowing what that feels like truly, or being reminded what that feels like for your clients, and being there. I mean, it is really everything. And it's not, you can't have like friends who are also there for you,
right,
or family, but it is different when it's someone who like understands your industry, understands your unique set of circumstances, and like they're paying to tell you what's up. Right.
Yeah, they're not sugarcoating it here for you.
And it's like almost like an unbiased third party.
100%.
Like I have to have that. I'll say like, I think I'm being crazy. Am I being crazy? Sometimes I just need someone to say like, yeah, that you're off your rocker. Like you've gone way over here. You're like, or tell me, no, there's something to look at here.
Yes.
And I'm willing to look at that too.
Totally. 100%.
I want to end with a question that is, I know, burning in people's minds when they listen to the two of us talk, which is, oh my God, I want a Cayla. I want a Tiffany. I want that. And yes, you do.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the next thing is, but I can do that once I start making money, or I can't afford to, work with people at your level. And what do you have to say to people that like allow that money barrier to get in the way of the help that they're being drawn and called to?
Wow. Well, I think that everything about money is there to teach you something. So if you're really buying into the story that you don't have money, it's because it's serving you in some way. Staying stuck, staying in the same job, staying in the same career that isn't serving you, staying with the same amount of views on social media, it's serving you in some way, because you get to hide, you get to stay the same person. It's very comfortable there. And working with somebody like you and I, like everything about you is about to change. Everything about you is about to change. So your mind is going to find all the possible reasons why it's not the right time for you. And so one of my first coaches taught me, he's like, your mind is not your friend. Remember that. Your mind is not your friend, so never listen to it. And always make decisions based on the person you want to be. And so I'm like, okay. And how I always make every investment into a coach. Okay. If this person stopped taking clients tomorrow and I said no today because I didn't have money, would I feel regret or would I feel relief? And if the answer is regret, I'm going to find a way to get that money. If I got to take out a loan, if I got to, pull a home equity line of credit out of one of my houses, I'll do it. I don't care, because I know whatever that person has in them is something for me. And it doesn't even usually, like at this stage, it's not like tangible things. It's a feeling that I get with people that I know it's just that going to help me go to that next level, right? And that's just basically how I make all those decisions. So if you want to work with them and, like at any given time, like I will, potentially not be taking any clients 2 years from today. I might take a complete hiatus. Right. You too. Like at any time we could shut our doors.
Right. Like half of last year I didn't take any clients.
And I always say my clients need me way more than I need them. Right. And so I'm giving a gift out there to the world, and I can take that gift away at any time. You shouldn't take it for granted. So if Tiffany's been on your vision board, if Cayla's been on your vision board for quite some time, stop making it be on the vision board. Find the money, make it happen, because your life will be dramatically different in a year.
And it's amazing what happens, and I can say this because I've done it a million times. When you put an amount of money out there for whatever it is. I mean, I also hired a fitness coach this year, right?
Good.
Like an in-person, and like someone who's 35 years in the business, like very
I think
experienced.
I've seen him on your story. Yeah.
Works with the professional athletes. Like I wanted the best, right? Like, and even though I had the money, it was uncomfortable because he was so much more than what's typical, right? And I was like, is this crazy of me to do this or whatever? But how I show up is totally different.
Oh my gosh. If it was $60 an hour, you'd be like, I'm sick. I'm not coming today.
Exactly. It'd be totally different. Now I maximize, right, every minute. I do all the stuff like when I'm not there. And it's like it's the best money I've spent lately, right?
That's awesome.
We use it to show up for what it is you want to do, because you're not showing up now. So something's got to get you there. Yep. And for me, I use money to show up.
Me too. 100%.
Like money, and also when I hire someone like I respect, or I'm friends with someone I respect. Like you told me there's people who like canceled like on not showing up for like podcast interviews before. And I've had it happen a couple times to me too.
Yeah.
Unless someone's like really sick.
Right.
I would never do that to you. Like, do you remember, like, there were fires all burning around my house during the California fires, and I still showed up for your event. And it wouldn't have mattered. You would have understood.
100%. That would have been a hall pass. Like, you would have totally been okay to miss it.
But I wouldn't do it. You want to have people in your life that you respect and value their time that much, that you're going to show up.
Absolutely.
I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too. This was such a good combo.
And this book is exactly what it's supposed to be. And we don't need to do any sort of manipulative games for you to be on a bestseller. It's going to be a bestseller in of itself on its own. And you know what a bestseller is when like people buy it, like you said, Think and Grow Rich, like people buy it for decades and pass it on for decades.
Yes.
That's a bestseller.
It's about having longevity for the book. Yeah.
Not like a one hot shot time. This is bigger than that.
I totally,
Love you.
I love you. Go to craftedoffer.com to see all the prison stuff.
Crafted Offer?
Craftedoffer.com.
And is that where we get the book as well?
Yep.
Okay. And then everything's going to be linked in the show notes. You can swipe up. It's in the description right here for you on ProjectME TV on YouTube. And her socials are... Did you change your socials?
No. It's at Cayla.craft.
Okay.
Everywhere,
And she's over on the TikTok. She's over on Instagram. You know, take in some of her messaging she had today. Like, I want you to like infuse yourself in it. Like, listen to the pod, take in her content, because what you take in, you end up really absorbing. And I know you really ate this up, but I think you need to like have this daily.
Yeah, you need to marinate in it.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. So everything's going to be linked so you can get it. And when is this book coming out? Or we don't know.
March 5th. Yeah, it'll be in your hands March 5th. You can pre-order it now. So.
Oh, it's already there.
Oh,
so you guys can go pre-order it, and
there's special goodies too, depending on how many books you buy. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And then if you want to go to prison with me.
I mean, I'm down. I'm always down for a prison trip. I'm absolutely. However many I have to buy. We're going to prison, folks. You better buy those damn books. Love you.
Love you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.